going on, guys? I'm Zach here with Ranch Armor. I'm the service department manager and the sole technician here. Just wanted to go over the JL racks today, kind of how to lay them out and how to install them along with the floor plate for them. So if you want to come over here, I kind of got these laid out. Most of the tech calls that I get are they're simple questions that could be alleviated by just proper bracket placement. So I got these laid out the way they're supposed to be on the vehicle, this being the front, this being the rear of the vehicle, and then driver side, passenger side. So you have your rear brackets that are going to sit like this on those back T40 bolts, your center brackets that are going to sit like this on those center T40 bolts, and then these are where those 10 mil stud plates go through at the front of the vehicle. So as we get later on in this video, you'll kind of see how it all gets mocked up there. But let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the vehicle, removing everything you need to inside in order to perform this install. So kind of a general overlay of tools needed. You don't need power tools. Everything can be done with hand tools. It's just me, who I am. You're going to need a T40 torque spit, a T30 torque spit. You're going to need a 14 mil deep socket as well as a 14 mil shallow socket. That's pretty much going to take care of unbolting everything inside the vehicle that you will need. So some helpful tools, the pry tool, and then this guy right here is going to save your life on the T40 torque spits up there. So it's just a T40 small bit, doesn't have to be a safety, it's just what I had. And then also this little micro ratchet right here. It's definitely a game changer as far as tightening down these T40 bolts that you'll find on the rear of the vehicle and the center of the vehicle. This is just removing this front brow piece. You're going to need to remove this to gain access to the 4 10 mil nuts that are up there on the two 10 mil stud plates that go through this. Fairly simple. Most dealerships, you've done this if you're running accessories, anything like that. Set it wherever it pleases you, and then now you got 4 T30s back here as well that hold on the felt cover. Make sure you do not lose these. Obviously, like any of your hardware, you want to keep it in a nice safe location because most of this is getting reinstalled. And that is pretty much how to remove the center felt and the front brow piece. 14 mil deep comes in, especially for these middle two. You're not going to be able to get the electric ratchet if you are using one back in this corner unless you got the new updated slim heads. I don't have that. So we're going to use them up here. Get these off. Like I said, make sure you don't lose them. While I'm on this side, I'm just going to go ahead and give you guys a rundown on these back ones. They're a little bit more of a trick. Like I said, you're gonna have to switch between the deep and the shallow back here. Unless you got the mid-range socket, I believe Snap-on does have one that does make it awfully convenient to do these. Moving on now that we got the 4 13 mil nuts off of those 4 long torque screws, what we're gonna move on to now is the 2 10 mil plates that are up here. Easiest way is an impact driver with 10 mil deep. Pretty easy. They're not torqued too super tight, and unlike traditional Can-Am fashion, they don't have yellow Loctite on them, so that's pretty cool. All right, now we'll get to popping these plates and removing the 4 Torx bolts up top. So these plates, there's no real sealing underneath them. It's just a little rubber mat, double-sided. Sometimes it takes a little effort to pop them out. That's why I said 2 pry tools, but most of the time they'll just kind of come right out. Yes, beat up flatheads. Everybody's got that old reliable. So they pop right out, and then we'll jump over to the other side and pop those out as well. So now we're going to undo the 4 Torx bolts that are up top. So you got 1 center, 1 rear, and that's for passenger and driver side. So 4 bolts total. Those are the ones that those 13 mil nuts and flat washers that we took off earlier go to. And that is it for the top disassembly. as far as hardware you have to install to get this rack up here. So moving on, now we'll get up to mount placement for the actual rack, and then we'll get on to setting the racks on the mounts. All right, so we're getting into the mount placement now up here, which seems to be where a lot of the confusion hits. However, that's why I showed you guys a quick glimpse on my toolbox of kind of how they're supposed to be set up. So a little tip as far as these rear brackets, you're going to want to slide this washer down a bit on the bolt, and you're going to want to put the bolt in there prior to trying to do this. It just makes it easier. No sense of making it more of a headache than it already is. So just go ahead and drop it in there with the washer down, so this way you're able to fit the head past, giggity. And then you can kind of just set it in there for now. She'll hang out there. Now that's something you're gonna want to do on all of these brackets. Now the front set with the two 10 mil stud plates is not as bad. It's primarily these rear brackets, and that's what I do get a lot of calls on, is one, orientation, and two, well, how do I even get the hardware in there? So it's just as simple as that, making sure the washer is partially down on that bolt so you can wiggle it in through. Like I said, it takes some finagling. If you're a light enough guy, obviously I'm about 210-ish, you are able to get on top of these roofs as long as you keep your weight centered. Do not sit on just the front half or the rear half. This is going to require a little bit of agility and dexterity, so you do not compromise the integrity of the roof. So I always climb up here, try to straddle this rear support bar, and then kind of make my way to the center of the roof here. And then this is how you can start setting up your center brackets, and then once you move a little more forward, you could get up to the front brackets. Now some of these, the side ones, I'll kind of run down just a little bit just to kind of hold them in place there. Remember, we are not tightening anything at this time, not even snugging, it's just running the threads in there. So keep that in mind. That is absolutely crucial to doing this rack, is nothing can be tight when installing until every part has been installed. Like I said, just enough to where it ain't gonna slide off and damage the customer's unit. So the 10 mil stud plates, very simple, just slot right back in and press them into place up here. All right, so disclaimer before you jump into this video, you will see one of my minor mistakes as far as installing these. So you'll see these racks right here where these two 5/16/18 bolts are. In the video, you're going to see that the tabs that are on this rear rack are on the outside. You want to make sure they are on the inside of the side rack. How you see them is how you will do them. Not like the install video. Unfortunately, I did. That's on me. We're all human. So just keep that in mind whenever you are placing your racks onto the mounts, that you make sure that these tabs that are facing this way are on the inside of your side racks. So getting into, we already covered rack placement, orientation, kind of gave it a general synopsis where everything is going to go. So another common question I get, the left and right are obviously pretty easy to figure out. They're the longest ones. Now the front and rear, so you'll notice, so this is going to be your front, to fit a full 50-inch light bar. Now easy way to tell the difference between the front and rear racks is right here. The rear does not fit a 50. It also has our logo that goes on the rear of the passenger. So like that. Now let's get into fitting the racks onto the mounts. So something to keep in mind, this is where, when I brought up earlier, it is crucial to keep everything loose. As you can see, most of my hardware has threads sticking out the top. You want as much finagle room as possible. So that is going to be the key to installing these correctly, along with the proper brackets and bracket orientation. All right, so I kind of covered how to do all this as far as installing the JL rack. Now, for those of you that got the optional floor plate or cargo plate, whatever you want to call it, we're going to kind of do a little bit of rework here to show you guys how to install that. It's not as complicated as most people think, and it is definitely doable by yourself. This can be a one-man band type show. So you'll be removing these two side bolts along with the ones that are adjacent, as well as these two rear corner bolts. So I already got one set out, and that's what we're going to start doing here so we can get this floor plate installed. Now, something to remember about this floor plate is the convex side up and the lip up. So it's kind of hard to mess this up. As long as your lip is facing up, you're up. Floor plate in, obviously with every hardware still loose, just like that has not changed since. Hardware loose. Cannot stress that enough. Hardware loose. OEM hardware loose, our hardware loose, everything loose, right? So now we're just going to kind of pull this rack back into position here and set it into place right here. And then now it's just like when you're doing your other the other portion of the JL rack. It's just lining it up. Like I said, some of it takes a little bit of finagling, but it is nothing out of the realm of possibility. So yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and reinstall those 6 bolts or 8 bolts that we took out, the 2 there, 2 here, and then 2 and 2. So we'll get doing that. All right, so now that you got your JL rack assembled, aligned, and you got your floor plate in, now you can begin tightening everything. So what I recommend doing is tightening all of our hardware first and then moving to OEM hardware. So going back to some of the tools that I talked about, that torque spit on that little ratchet is kind of what's going to save you back here. So you can kind of pan the camera around and you can see this Torx bolt back here. Same thing with those middle ones. This is where it's going to save your ass. So yeah, let's get to tightening everything. Getting into this, how I said earlier, go ahead and tighten all of our hardware first. Kind of skip a step. So a good practice to do is coming into here. So obviously you saw that our 4 T40s back there, those bits, there is small thread plates that are molded into this plastic. That's why I was running them down with the impact up there a little bit. Now you want to go ahead and put those flat washers and nuts that we took off, as well as put your 10 mils back on up here. One, it prevents the roof from shifting any further once you do start tightening the rack, because that rack will solidify this roof a heck of a lot more than it already was. So that is kind of the nice part. Now, the other thing that I do recommend doing before you tighten down all this OEM hardware, it is possible with our rack tight and the OEM hardware still loose that you could shift these plates up and actually put RTV under them to prevent any further leaks. It's not mandatory, but I do recommend it just to prevent that water from coming in. No, so like I said, we do like to take RTV black. I do shoot it under all of the brackets. This way it kind of prevents any water from leaking inside the cab. Any RTV will do, any silicone will do. You're just making a new seal essentially to prevent water seepage into the cab. Hopefully you guys see the lovely use of Milwaukee power tools. Let your old lady know you need to buy them to do this install and grow your toolbox. So now we'll go through and tighten up all of our OEM hardware. Are the 4 10 mil nuts. And now what I'll do is I'll go up top and run down all of those T40 Torx bolts up there. They will eventually kind of bottom out essentially, and then you can install your the nuts and washers that go underneath them. This is kind of the finished product of what you're looking at though. Like I said, tabs on the inside, side rails on the out. Kind of give you a quick glimpse of, you know, how it looks, man, with the floor plate. As far as the inside goes, whenever reassembly, it's the exact same thing that you did when you were pulling everything apart. So like I said, we tightened up our Torx bolts up there. They were the last to come out, so now they're the first to get tightened. Then we tighten up our 10 mils in the front. And then we come on inside and you'll put those nuts and flat washers back on your 4 Torxes, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and tighten those up. And then just putting your brow piece back in with those T30s, and then putting your center felt piece in with those T30s. Nothing too crazy, nothing out of the norm, and she's good to go, man. So thanks for watching. If you guys have any questions, You can get our direct line through any of our salesmen here in the service department. We are normally pretty busy, so if I can't get to you right away, I will try to. But yeah, if you guys got any other questions, man, feel free to drop me a line or shoot me a text or an email, and we'll try to get you squared away. Like I said, none of this is as complex as it seems. It just takes patience most of the time. And if you guys want to see any other install guides or videos, or just want to hear more tech tips from me, feel free to drop a comment on the video below. Thanks for watching.